Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava. Jaya Kunda Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha. Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Gyanthimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuralmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jayon Vishnupad Padmahamsa Parivrajkacharya Ashtotarsha Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath 47th Anniversary Mahamahotsava Ki. Garantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Hare Krishna, everybody. Today, on the anniversary of Sri Radha Gopinath at Sydney Temple, I think it's just an amazing opportunity to reflect on the pastimes of Radha Gopinath within our very own lives, and also the way they choose to bestow their mercy on each of us in our individual lives and experiences. Also, it might be a time for gratitude that not just at the moment, but we have seen already this morning their lordships in their transcendental resplendence and glory. 47 years after Srila Prabhupada left them in the hands of the Malechas. So I sit here feeling very humbled today amidst all of you, and I pray that with the blessings of the devotees, I may be able to glorify Sri Radha Gopinath by speaking some words of value from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayed nasta prayeshu abadeshu nicham bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So today we're reading from the first canto, second chapter, entitled Divinity and Divine Service. And we're reading today from text 17. Shrinvatam svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Ridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti suritsatam Shrinvatam svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Ridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti suritsatam Shrinvatam svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Svavana Kirtanaha Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Svavana Kirtanaha Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Mataji. Shinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Messages of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, are non-different from him. Whenever, therefore, offenceless hearing and glorification of God are undertaken, it is to be understood that Lord Krishna is present there in the form of transcendental sound, which is as powerful as the Lord personally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshastika declares clearly that the holy name of the Lord has all the potencies of the Lord, and that he has endowed his innumerable names with the same potency. There is no rigid fixture of time, and anyone can chant the holy name with attention and reverence at his convenience. The Lord is so kind to us that he can be present before us personally in the form of transcendental sound. But unfortunately, we have no taste for hearing and glorifying the Lord's name and activities. We have already discussed developing a taste for hearing and chanting the holy sound. It is done through the medium of service to the pure devotee of the Lord. The Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord, and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead, but anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. One cannot enter into the kingdom of God unless one is perfectly cleared of all sins. The material sins are products of our desires to lord it over material nature. It is very difficult to get rid of such desires. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotee making progress on the path back to Godhead. Many stalwarts in the devotional line fell victim to these allurements and thus retreated from the path of liberation. But when one is helped by the Lord himself, the whole process becomes as easy as anything by the divine grace of the Lord. To become restless in the contact of women and wealth is not an astonishment, because every living being is associated with such things from remote time, practically immemorial, and it takes time to recover from this foreign nature. But if one is engaged in hearing the glories of the Lord, gradually he realizes his real position. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. Om Angyantimirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Militamayena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamyena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shcha Shri Rupas Sajgrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Divam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamame Hari Priya Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Karoti vachalam pangum langai te girim tat kripa yavatamam bande Shri Gurun Tiratanana. So I have to say that I was actually very excited when I learned that we were starting in the temple together, the Srimad Bhagavatam right from the beginning, from Canto 1. Because somehow it's motivated me to really delve into the foundational essence of the devotional and philosophical principles that Srimad Bhagavatam is based on. So we learn, from the very beginning, from the very first chapter, when the sages are posing questions to Sutta Goswami. We learn from Srila Prabhupada in the purports that this world is full of questions and answers, and that is because we are dissociated. We have been disconnected from the supreme source of all that is. So questions, when they're posed, it implies a certain absence of complete knowledge. So these questions that often are posed in material life, they're kind of inconsequential, and then also the answers that are offered are also a little bit unsatisfactory. So our role as devotees or as people aspiring for something higher than material pleasures, our role is to ask the right questions. So this is what the sages of Naimisharanya were doing with Sutta Goswami. They were asking questions of higher knowledge of Krishna, and this is where the appeal of the Srimad Bhagavatam lies on so many levels. So it appeals to not only the Paramahamsas who are already liberated and relish this knowledge because of the value that it contains, but it also appeals to the neophytes who are struggling for some kind of liberation, if you like, from the material existence and the material entanglement. And that is why it's called the spotless Purana. It is so high in what it offers to everyone, and it is for everyone. So ultimately, we cannot get out of the struggle for material existence on our own. We need to re-establish that connection with the Divine Personality, Sri Krishna. And when we come to realize that the path of, or the purpose of life is not so much the path of Pravritti Marg, so the path of material sense enjoyment, but rather Nivritti Marg, which is the path of renunciation for a higher cause. So that opens the gateways towards devotional service. But we have to be mindful that devotional service in itself, because of our contaminated position, because of our conditioned nature, even devotional service, if it's not executed purely, it can be contaminated and thus hinder us on our path. interestingly. So what happens is we need to engage in devotional service in a way that's uninterrupted and unmotivated. And we see this in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11, which is also cited in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya-lila. Anyabilasita sunyam janma karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti rutama. So we see that if we want to obtain pure devotional service, we have to be free from material desires, from knowledge based on monistic philosophy, fruitive action. We have to be serving Krishna in a way that's it's in a way that's favourable and also as he desires. So not as, in some concocted way that we desire, but in the way that he desires. Now this, it sounds initially when one hears this verse, it sounds very directive and austere, to do such a thing. But in actual fact, this is our true nature. This is who we are. And the example we can take from is, that of a prison. So we're familiar with prisons in the material world. They're full of inmates who have done various misdemeanors and they're serving their time. But, they've undergoing a process of reformation and rectification, and then at the end of it, hopefully they're now balanced citizens and they come out into the real world and again as law-abiding citizens. But I mean, in my experience, I don't know, maybe others of you have a different experience, but those inmates, they're not necessarily receiving accolades when they get out of that prison, and they're not necessarily having a festival held in their honour. No, because that's what we expect. We expect the prisoner to come out and be back to the normal state of citizenship. That's nothing special, it's just the natural state of a human being to obey the laws of society. So similarly, we find ourselves in this prison of the material world, and our ascension through the stages of bhakti, through devotional service, it's kind of natural. This is how it's meant to be, and really anything beyond that or outside of that is a deviation. So we just have to remember that. So the material world is a deviation from what is true and natural to our identities. And, we might ask, how do we become devoid of these material desires? If devotional service itself is subject to contamination, well, this is the beauty of devotional service. Again, it's there for all. So for the sublime, pure devotees and also for the neophytes, it's accessible to all. And because it's such a great science, when it's engaged with properly, all good qualities follow. And it's like when Srila Prabhupada, he was being questioned about his credibility as a spiritual leader. I can't exactly verify the source of this information. Maybe someone knows, but I've heard it a few times, and it's that someone, I think a reporter or someone was questioning Srila Prabhupada, saying, what miracles have you performed, Swamiji? What is your qualification for being a great spiritual leader? And Srila Prabhupada turned to his devotees and his disciples and just said, well, these are my miracles. And this is it, living entities coming from such a degraded state as the hippies were in that time to becoming devotees of the Lord, in the mode of goodness. And in fact, we can probably all at some level attest to the miracle potency of devotional service in our own lives by various transformations that we may have personally experienced in different ways at different times. So this hankering of the soul that we all have, that the entire society has at some level, is not always recognised for what it is, because sometimes it's misinterpreted as, just needing that new job, or getting out of this relationship, or finding a new lover, or getting a new pet, or giving myself that little treat. Just that will make me feel good. I'll feel a lot better. And actually, that's a misguided approach to happiness. I mean, what we're hankering for is association, is reconnection, is the association of that which actually gives us life and actually sustains us in every way. And of course, at a very disturbing level in our society, we see, so many different kinds of mental illness. And again, any kind of disturbance of mental or physical health is actually indirectly or even directly, again, related to that disconnect. So that disconnect from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the material energy sort of level, it's not always recognized. Well, it's not recognized for that, and various explanations are given, and misleading interpretations. Chemical imbalances in the brain, resulting from childhood trauma, which may very well be true. But the core, the root essence of those disturbances, that don't allow us to fulfill our optimal full potential as living entities, is that lack of connection with Krishna. And this is where we see so beautifully in today's verse that Super Soul is ready to direct us at any time. So when we decide finally to turn to Krishna in our hearts, then that's when the bhakti journey begins. In fact, Super Soul thinks, finally my devotee is turning to me, is requesting that I intervene in his affairs, is requesting that I direct him. And it's not very unlike the story of Gopakumar in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that story, but Gopakumar is a devotee. I won't go into the story in great depth, but he's a devotee, and it's a story within Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It's about his epic quest for finding his soul's longing, for finding the Lord of his life, for finding his ultimate destination. And we see on his journey that he traverses the entire material creation, through the material coverings of the universe, and then finally into the spiritual world. And then when he reaches Vaikuntha, Vishnu is there waiting, saying, Gopakumar, what's taken you so long? I've been waiting and dancing for so many lives, waiting for you to come to me, and here you are. And as we know in this story, Gopakumar, he goes beyond Vaikuntha. Even then, he goes actually ultimately to Goloka Vrindavan, where he ends up in the embrace of Krishna, and his true identity, his true spiritual identity is revealed to him. So we are very similar in a way to Gopakumar. We are on this epic quest. We want to achieve that ultimate destination. And by virtue of our sampradaya and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are able to achieve this. We're able to achieve what Gopakumar achieved. Having our true identity revealed to us, and ultimately being in the association of Krishna. Now, the way to achieve this, Krishna tells us. He tells us in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vashasi satyamte pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. In this way you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. And also later in Bhagavad Gita, we see that Krishna actually says also, those who worship me, come to me. So those who worship the demigods, go to the demigods. Those who worship the ghosts, go to the ghosts. But those who worship me, come to me. And if we analyze today's verse further, we see the words Surit Satam, the benefactor of the truthful devotee. And initially we may think, okay, the truthful devotee is always truthful, one of the qualities of a devotee, always living by the truth. But even more than that, it refers to the devotee being true to himself, to his position in relation to Krishna as a dependent of Krishna. And also by being truthful in a sense of not being diverted by things such as false gurus or other things that may distract them from the devotional path. And I find the Manashiksha by Raghunath Das Goswami is actually a beautiful study in how at different levels of devotional service we can be distracted by different anartas and things that may come up even at the higher levels of devotional service. So what it comes down to ultimately is this state of integrity that the devotee really wishes to find himself in, because integrity, what does it mean? It means integrated. And this implies authenticity and that there is a alignment of all the devotee's faculties of mind, body, soul. So when there's an alignment with all of these things within a devotee, then there's no conflict, there's harmony, there's internal peace. And this is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to tell us. Krishna consciousness is the way to find that internal peace, because when there's, so within as without. So when we find that peace internally, when we find that equilibrium, that integrity in the process of devotional service, then that is expressed outwardly and there is peace all around. So one beautiful kind of expression of this integrity is a small part of the Aparajodhan prayers that are often chanted by the pujaris after they've engaged in deity worship, as a way to ask for forgiveness for any things that they may, for any aparadhas they may have committed inadvertently in the process of their service, which is stiti seva gatir yatra smritishchinta stuti vacha boyatsar vatmana vishnu madhyam tvayi cheshtitam. So let my normal condition be service. Let my movement be holy pilgrimage. Let my thoughts be remembrance of you. Let my words be glorification of you. O Vishnu, please let the activities of my mind, body and soul be engaged in you. Because the human body is designed for higher understanding. And when we use that propensity for higher understanding, then we gain naturally, through the process that's offered to us by our acharyas through devotional service, we gain that higher taste. And when we get that higher taste, we understand that, this human life is only meant for self-preservation. So all our endeavours, all our occupational activities, they're meant for really only furthering the bhakti process. And what happens is we don't embrace material life for the sole end of what we want to achieve in terms of material sense gratification, and we don't reject it either, because if we much like perhaps the yogis might reject material life, but what we do as devotees is we embrace, we actually utilize the whole material experience in the service of the Lord. Because everything we have, everything we experience can in some way teach us, and is indeed one way that Krishna as Supersoul directs us from within our hearts. So it's like he's driving our own chariot. And much later in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in Canto 11, we hear of King Yadu, who is questioning the Avadhuta about how it is that he appears so, he appears to be endowed with so many material qualities and spiritual qualities, yet he seems to be so detached from the material energy. And he's questioning him, what is the reason for his internal bliss and ecstasy? And the Avadhuta responds by telling him about 24 gurus that he has taken instruction from, that have instructed him on the science of the self. And these 24 gurus, they're all derived from none other than the material nature. So they include various living entities, some of the elements, and a person. So everything around us, in a way, can be our guru. And one of the examples he gives is that of the earth. It's actually the first example he gives, and the earth, the way it's given as an example is that, we may encounter people in our lives that become quite aggressive or they may intrude upon our, peaceful endeavours as a devotee. And we have to realise that they're acting under the direction of God, as is everyone else, and not to be disturbed and not to be distracted from our path. So similarly, the earth, undergoes so many tribulations with violations in so many forms and pillaging, but nevertheless she continues to supply us with all of our needs and in great abundance. So this propensity to worship Krishna, when it's this propensity to worship, when it's directed towards Krishna, we find that the whole universe actually responds. In fact, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, I was very interested to read this in later on in the first canto. Srila Prabhupada says that the demigods take all pleasure in seeing someone go back to Godhead. They may even help devotees by their powers. There is an invisible chain of complete cooperation between the Lord, the demigods, and the devotee of the Lord on earth. So, that synchronicity or that, coincidence that happened, well, this is Lord Krishna's action through the agency of the demigods. And I was just interested to hear that Prabhupada mentioned that, because even though we are personal wards of Krishna, once we surrender to him, then still everything is utilised in the cooperation to help the devotee go through the path of devotional service unhindered. Because nothing we do, actually wherever we are in devotional service, we're very hopeful, because we know that even the asuras, eventually at some point they're raised from their positions, from their degraded positions, through the agency of the merciful devotees of the Lord. And as they develop their qualities gradually, and they're gradually more and more qualified to hear the glories of the Lord. Because nothing we do of our own endeavour is enough to take us to the lotus feet of Krishna. We need the pure devotees. So that is to say, Lord Krishna, He's the property of his pure devotees. And as such, only the devotees can deliver Krishna to another devotee. It's much like the example of loving an owner's dog, to make your way to the owner's heart. So very similarly, those who are dear to Krishna, when we endear ourselves to them, we endear ourselves to him. In fact, our true identities are directly related to this service to the pure devotee. Naham vipro na chanara patir, na pivaisho na sudro, naham vani na chakri hapatir, no vano stoyatirva. Kintu projam nikilam parmananda purnam nitabder, gopi bartu padakamalayo dasa dasa anadas. So I'm not a kshatriya, vaishya. I'm not a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, or sudra. I'm not a brahmachari. I'm not a grihasta. I'm not a vanaprastha. I'm not a sannyasi. I identify myself as the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, who is a maintainer of the gopis. So this is our identity as devotees. We're given so many priceless gifts by the pure devotees. Our acharyas, the literatures, we just have more than we can actually manage or handle. But to what extent do we accept them and really integrate them into our lives? Ultimately, the Lord reciprocates in response to the interest and the desire of the devotee. Yeyatamam prapadyante tamstateva bhajamyaham mama vartmana vartante manusha partha sarvashaha. As all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So even the impersonalists are worthy of our respect. Even the personalists, they want to merge into the Brahmajyotir. But to be, when push comes to shove, basically their reward, because Krishna, he reciprocates accordingly, their reward is a hellish condition for the devotee. And also the people the fruitive workers, they also get their rewards in various ways through the agency of the demigods. But the plight of our society today is that no one is following any particular path, so not even a karmic path. So collectively they're all suffering, or we're all suffering in a way, because it's like the hand is dissociated from the body. The root of the tree is not being watered. But as devotees, we're given this incredible opportunity. We invite Krishna to be our intelligence, to take the reins of the chariot of our heart and direct our senses in service of him. With this intelligence, we're able to cut the knot of karmic bondage, and which ultimately is not an end in itself. It is actually a byproduct. It's a side effect of devotional service, because the sword, it represents knowledge, the mind, clarity, truth. And when that knot is cut, we become one-pointed in our goal with laser-like focus in our devotional service. So the reward of the devotees is that devotional service is its own reward. Just as Krishna could not repay the gopis for their service, naparayaham, I'm unable to repay you. And this is the principle behind devotees saying things such as, I wish to serve the Lord birth after birth. It's not necessarily that they want to come back to the material energy and be, here as prisoners on the material plane, but no, it's more that devotional service to the Lord is so sweet that it's like direct association with him. So it doesn't matter where one is as a devotee. They're always in bliss, always in ecstasy, because that is the nature of pure devotional service. So the first inkling of our desire to want to approach Krishna is actually acted on by Supersoul. And we know that the 4 kinds of devotees that approach Krishna are the distressed, those seeking wealth, those seeking knowledge, and those who are curious. So whenever any of these turn to him, Krishna in the heart responds accordingly. And we have the most amazing example of Dhruva Maharaj. So we know Dhruva Maharaj, he had some big material desires. He wanted a kingdom bigger than his father's. He wanted a kingdom bigger than Brahma's. He wanted so many material things. But the beauty of Dhruva Maharaj is that through good instruction, through the instruction of his mother, he went to the forest to seek the Lord, to fulfill those desires. And ultimately we see that material desires are not a disqualification for approaching Krishna. No, in fact, they're encouraged. So we need to approach Krishna for everything, even if they're material desires, because we find that Krishna, through his potency as Supersoul, he helps cleanse those desires ultimately from our heart. And the example of Dhruva Maharaj is that through the agency of Supersoul, Krishna sent Dhruva Maharaj Narada Muni as his spiritual master, and by chanting the mantra that was given to him by Narada Muni, the material desires of Dhruva Maharaj's heart were completely cleansed, to the point where he was so purified that Vishnu appeared before him. And Vishnu, upon appearing before Dhruva Maharaj, glorified Dhruva Maharaj and offered to benedict him with not only the spiritual qualifications that he so earned, but also the material desires that he had originally. And Dhruva, he was actually quite upset, because he didn't want to lose that connection he had with Lord Krishna, with Vishnu. He didn't want to lose that in place of his material desires, but actually, Vishnu, he supplied him with both. That is the mercy of the Lord. Like Dhruva Maharaj, we can't do it ourselves. Anything we endeavour for, we need to approach Krishna with our desires. And Krishna tells us, Sarvadharmam parichaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma suchaha. So if we surrender to him, the sins of our heart are completely cleansed. Now, out of all the paths of transcendental aspiration or knowledge, this has to be by far the best deal. Krishna is inviting us that we no longer have to work so hard in fruitive activity, in mental speculation, in yogic trance. I mean, it's no longer a solitary journey. It becomes like a transcendental partnership in ecstasy rather than, this lone material kind of arduous trek through material existence. So if we just simply start the process of glorifying the Lord, we are supported by the Lord in this process. So it's really about, all of our treks, all of our journeys, all of our experiences, a bit like Gopikumar's trek quest towards, the ultimate destination, the ultimate relationship. It's about coming home. It's about coming full circle, which ultimately ends up in some way or another in the embrace of the Lord, never again to return to the material world. And we have his word. So as if the deal that Krishna offers us isn't enough, we have as well the pure devotees of the Lord who are endowed with so many incredible potencies, that including that they're even more merciful than the Lord himself. So they deliver us the messages of the Supreme Lord, which act as intravenous injections into our ears. This is Srila Prabhupada saying in the purport down the track that it acts like and we know intravenous injections, they're rapidly acting, they're very potent, and they have the potential, depending on the nature of it, to create a risk of dependency. So this is what we want. This is the kind of dependency we want, the dependency on Krishna. Because the messages that we're given, they're meant to be heard and spoken, because the human tongue is designed for the recitation of Vedic hymns and not croaking like frogs, which ultimately attracts the snake to devour it. So we can see around us, all around us, that rising to the platform of devotional service enhances the beauty of a devotee. And we experience this firsthand by coming to the temple, and whenever we're interacting with devotees, we see that devotees are beautiful. And actually, David Prabhu, I don't know if you remember, but at the Sacred Sound Retreat early this year, I think it was your first one, you made a comment to me that everyone is just so beautiful. And this is what happens when the essence, the effulgence of the soul is expressed outwardly. That is what we perceive is that incredible beauty of the soul in our midst. So I will conclude there. We have 5 minutes or so. I don't know if anyone has any comments or questions. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Basically, in isolation, chanting 64 rounds or one lap of names. So how does isolation work with integration?
Yeah, very nice. I guess when I was referring to integration, I was referring more to an internal process. So integration is also very important as devotees, that we work together cooperatively and that we serve each other, because we all have this common goal. So it's very easy. But, there may be times when a devotee may seek solitude in order to connect, more deeply with the holy name, or however they may choose to. But the integration I was referring to was an internal integration. So within the devotee, there are so many aspects. There's mind, there's body, there's words, there's actions, there's soul. So if all of that is in alignment with the ultimate goal, which can include isolation, it doesn't exclude that, then it's still integration. It's integrative. Hope that makes it a bit more clear. So no more questions? Okay. So maybe we can just chant Hare Krishna until... Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Purusham Tamaham Vajami Angani Asa Sakalen Driya Vriti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda